welcome back to my channel. This is Dom, and a new sort of occasional series that I'm going to be doing, more for the historical buffs rather than the wargamers. So a little while ago I picked this book up when I was in Shropshire. I go to Shropshire an awful lot, stay in Ludlow, which is a wonderful place if you ever get to go there. And this book I picked up was Castles of the Marches. Now, this is a really geeky book if you're into castles, as I am. This actually lays out a list and a little bit of detail on all the March castles. Now, people might be aware the March region is the border area, basically between Wales and England. It was ruled by the Marcher Lords. They were assigned initially by William Conqueror when he invaded Britain, and he decided that the Welsh were going to be too much trouble to deal with, so he gave huge swathes of the border area to these Marcher Lords who were like little kings in their own rights, had the right to build castles and basically carry out whatever justice they felt necessary in the border regions to keep the dastardly Welsh out. Later on they invaded Wales, and anyway, it's a different story. But this book shows the basics of where all these castles were built, and there's about 120 of them listed in here. Not all of them still exist. Some of them are just little, piles of stone. Some of them not even that. Some of them have been changed from their original castle design into something more grand. But I thought it's a fun project for me and Mrs. Boots to go and visit every single one of them in this book. And actually we found a few more besides who aren't technically Marcher castles, but also damn good castles. So this series will basically be taking me through all these different castles, a little bit of historical background, and I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please share, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the castles. So the next castle I'm going to take a look at today is the Castle of Chirk, which is a Grade 1 listed castle just south of Wrexham in Wales, in the village of Chirk. It's now owned by the National Trust, and it's a bit of a different castle to many of the others that we've been looking at in this series. This one doesn't date back to the Norman period. Well, it kind of does, but it's not back to 1066 or 1068 or anything like that. Chirk Castle was originally built in 1295 by Roger Mortimer de Chirk, who was the uncle of the famous Roger Mortimer, 1st Earl of the March. And it was part of King Edward I's chain of fortresses across the north of Wales, guarding the entrance to the Shiriog, I'm going to mispronounce that, valley. And it was the administrative centre of the Marcher Lordship of Chirkland. So yeah, it's an interesting one because it isn't quite like others, and it's a very interesting building, well worth a visit. It's definitely a building of two halves. The castle was bought by Sir Thomas Milderden in 1593 for about £5,000, which according to Wikipedia is approximately £11 million as of 2008. His son, another Thomas, was a parliamentarian during the English Civil War, but became a royalist during the Cheshire Rising of 1659. At that point, during the English Civil War, the castle was partially demolished and then rebuilt, which leaves this sort of very odd mixture of a building that has, on one side, very much a classic, almost medieval castle, and on the back side, a much more stately home style. Following the restoration, his son, another Sir Thomas, became the first Baronet of Chirk, and the castle passed down the Mirden family to Charlotte in 1796. The
The house continued to be in the family's hands right up until World War One, until after World War Two, when it was leased by another lord and became a sort of centre of Welsh culture. And in 1918, Chirk Castle was used as a film location for the film Victory and Peace. The castle itself was also used for evacuees in the latter part of the Second World War. The castle remained in their hands, and even though it was transferred to the National Trust in 1981 and open to the public at that point. It's an impressive location. It sits very prominently above the River Dee, and sort of dominates the area, which is kind of what it was originally designed to do. The interior is quite striking. Includes a 17th century long galley, a series of 18th century staterooms, and it's a real eclectic mix, as I say, from medieval through to 1920s and 1930s. Set in 480 acres of estate parklands. There's about 5.5 acres of lawns and sort of formal gardens, which are amazing to walk around. Chirk Castle was never planned as a family home, and as I say, it was one of many border marcher castles. Obviously, because it was built as a fortress, it was never intended as a sort of home. So the original castle was built very much as a dominating one that overlooks the countryside and would cower any invading Welsh. Made of very strong defences, and basically built for defence. It has a courtyard well, which is 28.5 metres deep, which could probably have supported a garrison if it had ever come down to a siege. However, probably not many, because it's not very deep with water. What's left of the castle, you can see the round drum towers, which obviously allowed killing zones of anybody trying to attack and come into the castle itself. Originally, there would have been 4 corner towers joined by narrow curtain walls with half towers in the middle of each side. They had connecting passageways into the upper floors only, which meant individual towers could be basically separate bastions to hold out against an attacker. Originally, the castle was owned by Richard Mortimer, who served Edward I and then Edward II. However, ambition got the better of him, and he supported his nephew, another Roger Mortimer, who took up arms against the king, and he was thrown in the Tower of London and died there in 1326. So Chirk Castle then regularly changed hands between some of the most important men of the age, including the Earls of Arundel, Cardinal Henry Beaufort, the Duke of Somerset, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, who was later King Richard III, and Sir William Stanley. And it was usually granted them in recognition of their service and taken away again when they went into disgrace, which often happened. Fascinating castle, very much an eclectic mix within it, but well worth a visit if you are up there. And as I said, it's part of the National Trust now, so if you are a member, you can get in for free and have a look around it. Leave plenty of time to have a look around the estate and the gardens, because it's a lovely walk, although quite steep to come up from the car park at the bottom.